and consultations are ongoing. However, I assure you that the citizens' democratic rights will not be infringed upon. Details on the emergency meeting that led to the decision to prohibit political supporters from nearing polling stations. A Council of Ministers meeting was held to determine the guidelines for the political campaigning and how we can ensure a safe election, given the capacity issues of KPSM and the increase in violence. One of the proposed guidelines is the prohibition of political supporters near polling stations. Of course, these guidelines are still under legal consultation, and once finalized, they will be communicated accordingly. As to mention, I do not control how long that will be done. I have done my part as Minister of Justice. The legal affairs has to finalize the document. It's been going back and forth with different advices, and hopefully, in short, it will be finalized. Through you, Chair, the question and answers from MP Duran. Is there a bigger threat that is not being communicated to the members of Parliament? There's no bigger threat other than the concerns specified in the closed-door meeting with the members of Parliament and on the floor of Parliament. Has the stance on the July 17 shooting been politically motivated change? To date, there is no evidence that this shooting was politically motivated, based on the fact that that was not communicated with my person. How does the cancellation of public meetings correlate with the shooting event? All measures outlined within the Ministerial Regeling are linked to safe elections and take into account all the challenges faced by our law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to capacity issues and the rise in crime. Are the members of Parliament and politicians advised not to attend public events? No, such advice has been given, nor will it be given. As always, all citizens of St. Maarten, including members of Parliament and fellow politicians, are encouraged to exercise their discretion regarding the places they choose to assemble. Explanation of any alternative measures considering for allowing public meetings safely. All policy options have been considered, and the finalized regulation will be clarified. However, the legal consultation is ongoing. Request clarification on any written advice given by the Council of Ministers before these decisions. No written advice was received. Through you, Chair, the question and answer from the Honourable Member MP Otley. Inquiry into the stakeholders' consultation and decision-making process. No advice was sought at the time of asking. However, consultations are ongoing. To you, Chair, the question and answer by the Honourable Member Jacobs. Confirmation of the consultations with Justice Chain professionals before making the decision. No advice was sought at the time of asking. However, consultations are ongoing. Explanation of the correlation between the announced measures and public safety. The measures will be outlined within the MR and are linked to having a safe election and to take into account all challenges faced by our law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to the capacity issues and the rise in crime. Information on any additional measures to address violence and gun violence. In the presentation, it was already stated that the plan of approach of the police force of St. Maarten will entail hotspot, hotshot, and hot times approach based on intelligence, targeted actions and arrest on gun-related crimes, increased surveillance, and traffic controls, preventative weapon control, and an action plan per community by the community police officers. Details cannot be given due to the operational safety. Other measures have to be aligned with the interministerial approach. Request for a clear and immediate response to the motion presented. The motion is Parliament's right, and I understand the concerns presented in this motion as outlined. However, again, the ministerial reckoning remains in draft form, awaiting necessary feedback. Through you, Chair, the question and answers from the Honourable Member of Parliament, MP Brugge. Status and timeline for the quotation on scanners. The container scan quotation is dependent on a site visit by the supplier. Site is dependent on the area to be made available by Port St. Maarten. Possibility of reinstating the zero-tolerance multidisciplinary team with the reinforcement in place. Zero tolerance is a concept that uses a multidisciplinary approach together with stakeholders. The police force of St. Maarten currently has a team in place that is working multidisciplinary based on the hotspot, the hotshot, hot time analysis, whereby traffic controls and targeted actions are carried out. During the election week, with the assistance of the Kingdom partners, the Voluntary Corps of St. Maarten, and the Marines, more traffic controls and targeted actions within specific areas will be conducted. Contribution of the Minister to a plan involving all ministries to tackle rising crime. Yes, crime requires an interministerial approach. The first and foremost warrants research into the cause of high crime, the demographics, and the impact. This is to ensure that it is tackled at the root. Explanation for discontinuing the BOHA program and intentions to restart it. The BOA was placed on hold pending certification of the course outline, which is a requirement. According to the Ministry of Education, certification is vital for continuation. This matter is being worked on. Details on St. Maarten's participation in assisting sister islands during elections. The Minister of Justice has not to date received a request for assistance from other police forces within the Kingdom for various public order and safety reasons. However, the Rijkswet-Politie states that the countries have an obligation to assist each other if necessary. Specifics on what public meeting cancellation entails, indoor versus outdoor. This will be outlined in the ministerial regeling once the proper consultation has been completed. Through you, Chair, the questions and answers from MP Lyndon. Clarification on the specific threat that led to the cancellation of public meetings. The measures that will be outlined within the MR are guidelines linked to having a safe election and take into account all challenges faced by our law enforcement agencies, including but not limited to the capacity issues and the rise in crime. Explanation of measures taken for public safety and the timeline for these measures. In the presentation, it was already stated that a plan of approach will entail hotspots, hotshot, hot times approach, based on intelligence-targeted actions and arrests, gun-related crimes, increased surveillance and traffic controls, preventive weapon controls, and an action plan per community by the community police officers of St. Maarten. Details cannot be given due to the operational safety. Inquiry into the communication and transparency of the government regarding the threat. No such threat has been identified. Through you, Chair, the questions and answers for MP Westcott Williams. Request for the Minister's position on proposed motion. The motion is the right of Parliament, and I understand the concerns presented in the motion as outlined. However, The MR remains in draft, awaiting the necessary feedback. Confirmation or denial of consultations with relevant stakeholders on the decision. At the time of questioning, consultation had not taken place. Consultations of the draft is ongoing. Reading of the reasons for the Marine deployment and its relation to heightened threats. Because of the elections and the additional risks within the hurricane season, there is a probability that the police force of our country will have a high demand for capacity and framework of its guarding, protection, and security risks, or security tasks, rather. The Marines could assist in guarding and securing specific locations to maintain public safety. Also, with the knowledge of the use of scooters in violent crimes and the fact they often flee via borders, the Marines in the vicinity of the borders can give additional assistance through traffic controls. Confirmation of the government's responsibility for public safety and specifics of the decision taken by the Council of Ministers. This decision was a Council of Ministers decision to prepare guidelines for a safe election. Explanation of political guidelines and their enforcement during this period. These details are still being worked on. By this, I conclude the questions and answers by the honorable members.
Honorable Minister, I thank you very much for those answers that you gave in relations to the questions that was asked by the honorable members of Parliament in the second